You're still watching TVC Breakfast. We now take you to the center of unity where Shamama Imodu and TJ Suadeoye are in Abuja for the FCT Brief. In Akwana, Abuja, it's a beautiful Monday, a lot of security conversations. Over to you.
Good morning, Ria. Indeed, there's a lot of security discussions this morning. It's serious business on the table.
Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the month of November, the first working day in the month of November. Just 1 month to December. TJ? Let's go with what we have today.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to FCT Brief. Today, we'll be looking into a sensitive and pressing issue, and that is the alleged genocide of Christians in Nigeria and how it is shaping diplomatic relations between Nigeria and Washington. Recent reports and advocacy campaigns in the United States have once again placed Nigeria under the global spotlight, raising questions about religious freedom, human rights, and government accountability. The U.S. has in the past expressed concern over violent attacks on Christian communities, with some American lawmakers and advocacy groups calling for sanctions and closer scrutiny of Nigeria's internal security management. On the other hand, the Nigerian government insists that the crisis is not religious, but rooted in broader security, economic, and ethnic complexities. This divergence of narratives has deepened tensions and put Nigeria-U.S. relations to a subtle but serious test.
At the heart of this debate lies the challenge of perception, how Nigeria tells its story versus how the international community interprets it. Beyond religious identity, the allegations carry diplomatic weight that could influence security cooperation, foreign aid, and Nigeria's global image as Africa's largest democracy. As both nations navigate these sensitive accusations, the stakes are high for bilateral trust, regional stability, and the credibility of Nigeria's counter-terrorism efforts. The big question is whether diplomacy and evidence-based dialogue can bridge the growing divide between both partners. To help us unpack these issues, we are joined by Professor Bola Akinteriwa. He is the former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, and a Professor of International Relations at Chivas University, Owo, Ondo State. And he joins us via Zoom. While here in the studio, we have Captain Bish Johnson, a retired U.S. Army officer and military strategist. And together, they will help us analyze the diplomatic, political, and security dimensions of this unfolding controversy. Gentlemen, nice to have you both with us this morning.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, Captain Bish. Now, given the declaration by President Trump, now what immediate diplomatic implication does that have, especially on our relation with the U.S., both countries' sovereign states?
Okay. Good morning, and thank you for having me. Let me begin this way. The truth of the matter is that we have security challenge in Nigeria. The truth of the matter is the fact that the security problem we have in Nigeria has been ongoing for nearly 2 decades. Fact, government is taking action to deal with the problem. Fact, has the problem been solved? Of course not. People are still being killed. Either they are kidnapped, their villages are ransacked, they are burnt, and this information is not only here in Nigeria. People in Washington, D.C., trust me, they know what is going on in Nigeria. They know what is happening in Nigeria, probably more than a lot of people in this country know. If there is no evidence to that, you should look to the WikiLeaks leaks that took place. You see that U.S. has this broad intelligence infrastructure that they can gather clandestinely intelligence from almost every country on the planet. What is going on there? Now, what is the immediate diplomatic implication? The implication, of course, is that, look, this offers Nigeria an opportunity to have an honest and genuine diplomatic discussion with this current administration. This administration, this U.S. administration, is like no other administration. It's even not like the Trump, what they call Trump 1.0, where he had experienced diplomats and the military officers that were advising him. This Trump 2.0 is completely different, right? This is an administration that shoots first before he asks questions. The previous time, he will ask questions before he will shoot. Now, we've had these challenges for a very, very long period of time. You had President Muhammad, before Muhammad Buhari, you had Goodluck Jonathan for 6 years. Now you have Buhari for 8 years. Now this current administration is now barely 2 years or 2 years. So if I'm one of those advising the current administration, as far as diplomacy is concerned, I would tell him not to try to take ownership of the previous administrations. I will not take ownership of Goodluck Jonathan and Muhammad Buhari's administration, because everybody know that they failed in dealing with the problem. I will only talk about my 2 years that I have been in office. Okay, and ask that, look, and this is what I have, and let Washington know that, look, this is within these 2 years, short period of time that I've been in office, these are the steps that we have taken to deal with this problem. But these are the challenges that we are facing. How can you come in to help us in dealing with these challenges? And not to dismiss that we don't have all these problems, because everybody knows that we have these problems in Nigeria. It's public notice.
Indeed, everybody understands that this is the challenges that Nigeria faces. And that's why you see some Nigerians publicly, applauding or welcoming Trump's comments, not because they endorse this foreign interference, but because they feel helpless, they feel unheard at home. What does that reaction reveal about public confidence in Nigeria's security leadership?
Well, you see, it's also a fact that the confidence and trust of the public in their government in Nigeria has been declining for years. Because, and this is driven mostly by the inability and the failure of, several administrations. Not this one, particularly the administrations that were before this, to have run in this insecurity that we're talking about. Everybody knows that it is the first order of business of any government is protection of lives and property. When any state fails to do that, then that state has failed in its responsibility. I have had people make the argument that this is a sovereign nation, the U.S. cannot come in. I agree, it's a sovereign nation. Now, within that sovereignty, there's also what is called the responsibility to protect. And that is that every sovereign nation must be able to protect all of its citizens and different classes of citizens. And where that sovereignty fails to do so, that international community has a responsibility to go there and protect those endangered class of people.
Okay. Captain, will come back to you on this. Prof, let's take a look at this. How can Nigeria ensure that this present narrative of alleged genocide against Christians does not define our international, our global image and our foreign policy? It's a very sensitive matter.
You see, my brother, colleague, Captain, made a submission that may not allow me to give you an objective analysis to your question. He, for instance, told us in terms of the implication and what to be done. He did say that the situation gives Nigeria an opportunity, and he talked about honesty, honest discussion, all right, to dialogue with Trump too, that is Trump's second term, being, well, in inverted commas, a good broker that we should discuss. As much as I believe that we can dialogue and discuss, it cannot be on the basis of stick and carrot. It cannot be. Because in this case, you are talking about interference. The issue is not interference. It does not have any problem with interference. In international law, diplomatic practice, interference is allowed. Anybody can interfere. But what the UN Charter provides for, particularly in Article 2, Paragraph 7, is non-intervention. non-intervention. Interference does not mean intervention. When you interfere, you don't use force. It's not a question of use of force. But the moment you are going to use force, you move from the domain of crisis to conflict. You move from the domain of just diplomatic negotiations, dialogues, to use of force. That's why the UN Charter states clearly that non-intervention should be the policy in interstate relations. I have to make this point simply because the issue of international responsibility was also raised. Right. I quite agree with him. But you see,
all right, Prof, we hear you, and I would like to come in here very quickly because I understand your point. But President Tinubu recently told these security leaders that Nigerians expect results, not excuses. Now, beyond the battlefield tactics, is government losing this information war? I'd like you to answer me that very quickly, and by extension, public trust as well.
All right, you see, we can argue for and against. For, that is, government is losing, the information dissemination. And we can also say no, because we have foreign intervention is there. When we are talking about all these trust, for instance, do you want to argue, do you accept the hypothesis according to which there was a coup in Nigeria? You can continue to argue, but we also know that there is no smoke without fire. There is no smoke without fire. If you ask me as a scholar, was there any coup in Nigeria? I will argue that if we consider the fact that the coupists, the terrorists, have more equipment than sovereign army, when you consider how they have been able to sustain their militaristic attacks, you ask questions. It means that there are some people outside of the governmental framework funding, training, aiding, abetting all the attacks. And I will say, yes, there might have been coup. And I will tell you that in terms of trust, for instance, who wants to trust whatever argument any government wants to give when you are living with manifestations of insecurity? My contention, for instance, is that, look, if you look at what is happening at the level of bilateral ties between the United States and Nigeria, I will tell you that the policy of the United States is not to threaten, is not to even attack. The Americans wouldn't come to attack people purportedly killing Christians in Nigeria. No, the U.S. of Donald Trump is not interested in having Bola Ahmed Tinubu in power. The policy of Trump, too, is regime change. America wants Nigeria to go in a particular direction. And Nigerians are saying, two guys saying, no, we are a sovereign state. We wouldn't accept that. One example is you don't want convicted criminals, the Venezuelans, many people. They wanted Nigeria to host them.
Prof,
and Nigeria said no.
Prof, we'll come back to you on this, this particular narrative. Captain, let me come to you with this. The argument that there are killings, you said there are certain facts. There are killings in Nigeria.
Of course.
Christians are being killed.
I agree.
Muslims are being killed.
I agree.
Communities attacked.
I agree.
Why should the U.S. single out and say it's a genocide against Christians and try to play the religious card? I think that is where the problem is.
Yes. In all of these things, there's geopolitics and there's also local politics. Donald Trump won election in 2016, campaigning to evangelical Christians in America that he is going to protect Christianity all over the world. And they gave him maximum support. He won re-election again on the same promise that he is going to protect Christianity anywhere in the world. That is the local angle to it, right? And so he is trying to fulfill the promise that he has made to his staunchest supporters back home in the United States. And it's a win for him. You see, this is not the time for us to start arguing with Donald Trump or start antagonizing Donald Trump. We want to establish an Islamic state within the sovereign state of Nigeria, where they will practice Sharia law. And Donald Trump will not play the genocide card if he says that Muslims are killing Muslims, their fellow Muslims, because that wouldn't amount to genocide. Genocide is when one group of people is trying to eliminate a different group of people. And so the easiest way, let me just finish this thought. So the easiest way for Donald Trump administration to establish genocide is to say that Muslims are killing Christians. And Muslims are killing Christians, whether it's in the Northeast or the Northwest or even in the Middle Belt. Muslim terrorist organizations are killing Christians. And that is the premise at which Donald Trump administration is trying to establish genocide.
All right, Captain, we hear you. But you heard when Prof said that it seems as if the U.S. narrative is more about twisting Nigeria. How much of Trump's rhetoric is about humanitarian concern, and how much is about strategic positioning, influence, resources, and soft power competition in the West Africa? You mentioned that earlier when you were speaking in your opening remark. I'd like you to establish that. Now,
Donald Trump is transactional in his leadership style. There is no argument about that. But at the same time, we cannot dismiss some of the issues that are being raised by his administration. Now, you don't need to look any further than what is happening in South Africa. What I'm trying to do is to advise on practical steps that our government can take to avert what could be a looming catastrophe for us. I don't care about the things. I'm a military officer. I believe I'm a practical person. You know, I don't believe in the grammar of international law and international politics. We believe in practicality. We have seen people propose all kinds of proposals in the classroom, and when we go out to the field and we apply those things, and they fail woefully. Okay? So what I'm trying to propose is a practical advice that this administration will take to avert, to clear up the area. Because some of the issues that are raised are facts. It's not coincidence that the senator who is leading this argument in the U.S. Senate is from Texas. Texas has one of the largest population of Nigerians around the Houston area, Sugarland area, for example. And these Nigerians are doing well, highly educated. They are captains of industries. They are doing fantastically well. And Senator Ted Cruz is hearing from them. They are some of his supporters. They donate to his campaign. So anybody who thinks that U.S. does not know what is happening in Nigeria is making a grave mistake. They know what is happening in Nigeria. And some of the things they are saying that is happening in Nigeria is actually happening in Nigeria. They are in the public domain. Now, take example, what happened in South Africa. What happened in South Africa is a similar thing that is happening in Nigeria right now. And this is the same strategy that the Donald Trump administration is using. What they used in South Africa is what they are also using here. In South Africa, what was the issue? That the ANC-led administration, ANC is a purely almost black political party in South Africa, was taking land away from white farmers and killing them. And so they were trying to establish racism and genocide against minority white. Because you have to establish genocide for you to be able to come in. And that is why I brought the issue of responsibility to protect. Okay. Every sovereign nation has a responsibility to protect its citizens from 4 categories of atrocities. 1, genocide. 2, war crimes. 3, ethnic cleansing. And 4, crime against humanity. And in a situation where it is established that any one of these atrocious crime is taking place, the international community has a responsibility to step in and stop it before it gets worse.
All right, to step in and before it gets worse. Prof, let me come to you with this question. Now, with this, how can Nigeria rally other international partners? We have ECOWAS, we have the UN, we have the Commonwealth, we even have the OIC, so that we don't get to a point where there's a narrative being pushed to isolate Nigeria. How can we get this through the backdoor diplomacy to begin to talk with the U.S.?
You see, you always ask very beautiful, very thought-provoking questions. But you do not always allow in-depth analysis of issues that are made and that are connected. Because you see, when the captain will make some submissions that are, I don't know how to describe that, and then you ask another question, it's not good enough, because you will not be able to have correct analysis. You ask me, what can we do? There are many ways like that. When, for instance, the captain says the international community has responsibility to do so, does the United States constitute the international community, for instance? Does it constitute the international community? It does not. We even have the concept of the free willing states. When it becomes difficult for the United Nations to act, those who have the power and the means, they will take that one. I am saying that, look, under no circumstance can a Donald Trump constitute itself as the international community are now trying to take the decision.
So how do we get out of this?
Now, what Nigeria can do, pardon?
Donald Trump is already doing that. He's already intervening. So how do we get out of this?
Yes, precisely. You see, I raised that one as a prolegomena to the analysis. How to get out of it? One, the intervention must be vehemently opposed. All right? Vehemently opposed. The way Yusuf Tuga had responded is so beautiful. They said that, look, if the United States wants to dialogue, assist in containing terrorism, in combating insecurity, Nigeria would be happy. And they said that one would be welcome. But when it comes to disrespecting Nigeria as a sovereign state, now threatening our territorial integrity, we will not accept that. That is the first thing the media, the scholars, to begin to sustain. When, for instance, a practical man looking at it from practice, and I agree with the captain, he's talking as a practical man, but he easily forgets that the practicality he's talking about is derived from theories. It is what the teachers of grand strategy in the universities teach them that they are practicalizing. Experience is always as a result of activity. So in this case, Donald Trump must not take Nigeria as a banana republic. We have our problems. Insecurity has been there for long. I can tell you that if Donald Trump were given the opportunity to come and govern Nigeria, it's a place where you have the institutions working, regulations. Nigeria is more complex than the United States. Even if America is more populous, more powerful, we need to get these things. After vehemently opposing the intervention, the next thing will be to use the mechanism of the ECOWAS to re-strategize. This is the beauty of the strategic autonomy that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is proposing. That, look, Nigeria needs to be self-reliant. If Nigeria is self-reliant, then Africa can be made self-reliant too. By this level of diplomacy, the intervention is still at the level of crisis. It's not yet deepening to the level of conflict. There should be special campaigns against that to sensitize the whole world, to draw the attention of the American people, Donald Trump in particular, that the disregard for international law should not be extended to Nigeria.
All right, Prof.
It is Donald Trump that, okay.
All right, Prof, we hear you.
Yes, I'm listening.
Yes, we hear you, but I would like to know, because now you're saying reject this in its entirety, right? Now, how much of this has an influence on, emboldening this extremist group and also deepening how the world sees us, the narrative out there? What do you think the implications of this kind of statements on our own image and also in emboldening the extremist groups?
Well, you see, if I give you my own thinking as a special school of thought, the insecurity in Nigeria has a recidivist character. Why? Those who are coming, giving us the prayer that they want to come and help us, I am saying they are likely to be responsible for aiding and abetting the recidivist character. They are the one. Now, when you ask me that type of question, my answer will be that, okay, don't help us. Let us alone. Necessity, we have always been told, is the mother of invention. Then you will see that when Nigerians are left alone to fight the Boko Haramis alone, they will find solution. But when, for instance, those who manufacture weapons in Europe, in America, and they do not have means of selling, there has to be trouble. They have to foment trouble. They have to create situational realities where their weapons will be sold. This is why they aid and abet. You create problems, you destroy Gaza, then you come and propose, aid, humanitarian assistance. This is the reality of international politics. It's not classroom
conspiracy theory. We have a problem. We have to deal with the problem. Why is it difficult to pick on the sponsors of this terrorism?
Yes, you see, you cannot deal with them. You only need to have the powers. They operate under this diplomacy too. You do it.
Unfortunately, I think we lost connection with Prof there, but I think we've run out of time. I don't know if you would like to say something in 10 seconds.
Yes, it's quite unfortunate we don't have enough time to get into this thing. And because the Prof keep referencing me, look, there is a problem. And the best way to solve a problem is to properly diagnose your problem. When you misdiagnose your problem, you're going to get a faulty solution. See, we have a problem. The problem is to stop Donald Trump from constituting himself into an international community. And it's already happening. He's in Venezuela. You guys have been following that trend, right? And they've deployed the USS Ford to that area. Now, you can't stop. I don't see the capability that we possess in this country to stop the United States if they want to come into Nigeria. Right. And that's why I have said that we must utilize the instruments of genuine diplomacy to dissuade Donald Trump from taking the steps that he wants to take. Right. If we start talking about book and the things that we teach in the classroom, the U.S. will be on our doorstep, and by that time it will be too late for us.
We understand you, Captain, and we must say thank you so much for your contributions on the program. Also, Professor, thank you so much for your contribution on the program. That's where we'll leave the conversation. Well, I must say, the world is watching, and Nigerians are demanding not excuses, not speeches, but they are demanding results. And that's where we'll leave our conversation. Thank you so much for watching. We'll now hand you over to Lagos, where Ria and the rest of the team are standing by to continue with the rest of the show.
All right, Tijesu, thank you very much. I love that. Nigerians are watching. Thank you so much, Abuja Mungode. That was a fantastic conversation this morning.